Huh?
When I was young, there was a lot that I didn't understand about my brain, and I don't have the same kind of brain as many of you guys might have, and so I grew up very confused as a child. I was depressed. I was suffered from a lot of anxiety, and as a young adult, it became very self-destructive. Drugs and alcohol was very regularly included. It was the only time I actually felt normal. And please keep drinking. It's okay. No, I'm just kidding. But when I was in that very young age, I was very confused about a lot of the things that actually make people normal. And I never felt normal. I still don't. I'm 53 years old, and I still don't feel normal, right? But one area where I really learned to kind of manage myself better was physical exercise. So what happened to me when I was young is I never thought I was smart enough to go to school, so I didn't go to university, and instead I joined the military. And a year later, I came out of that a completely different person, and it was the first time in my life where I actually felt normal. And that was my connection with physical activity and mental health. And that stayed with me. After that, I resigned from the military and decided to become a personal trainer, where I was working with people, helping them become healthier and fitter. And over the past 30 years or so, I've slowly but surely evolved as a coach, from being a personal trainer to becoming an executive coach and even a leadership coach. And a lot of the areas where I really work on is helping people basically maintain themselves and kind of remain that island of calm in an ocean of chaos. And how often don't we find ourselves being in that ocean of chaos? And that actually inspired me. This was in 2010. It inspired me to go back to school. I did a master's degree in neuroscience, and specializing in leadership. And it was there where I got to research the brains of leaders. And that was one of the most fascinating processes of being able to see between the ears of hundreds of different senior leaders in various different companies. And some of my revelations were quite shocking, but understandable. And it was my big revelation was the one key element, and we'll get into that later, but the one key element that we miss in organizational performance, and especially in measurement metrics, is wellness. A lot of my research started pointing to that. I had this great story to tell, I had a lot of research, and so then I ended up writing a book, which ended up getting published in 2016, and that actually kind of just took off, and I now do a lot of these talks and coaching leadership teams in terms of actually how to connect to themselves, to their environments, and be more connected with their people, with themselves, using that mental awareness, emotional intelligence, and so on. So wellness, I mean, that's kind of why I'm here, right? So we're going to do a little test for you, right? A little psychological test. And the way this is going to go is I'm going to ask one of you to give me as many things that you can do with this object that I'm going to show you within 10 seconds. All right? So I'm just going to come on down here. I'm going to seek a volunteer. Who are we going to get? Let me see. I'm not going to do people in the front are always so eager. I'm not going to do people in the front. How about for you? So I'm going to pop up an object, right? And in 10 seconds, I just want you to give me as many as you can think of that you can do with that one object. You ready? All right, here it comes. 3, 2, 1, go.
Throw it at someone. Build a house.
Good.
Prop your plant on it. Sit on it.
Stop. Good. So 4 things. Great. That's not bad, right? Average people are 3 to 5 in 10 seconds. All right. Let's do another one. Would you be able to do one as well? Not the same object, different object. All right. Here it comes. 3, 2, 1. Whoops. Siri, stop talking to me. Okay, here we go. And go.
Flip paper with it, change the SIM card,
make a heart, pick a lock.
And stop. Also 4. Good. All right, nice. All right, let's do one more. Would you like to? Yeah? So you can take a look. All right, here it comes. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. It's...
Just kidding. We're digital now. What is that?
Oh, you poor thing. Don't worry. So I'll just ask somebody else. How about for you, sir? Yeah? You want to give it a try? Oops. All right, so we're gonna do that one again. Okay, here it comes, that third object. 3, 2, 1, and go.
Read it.
Uh-huh.
Kill a cockroach.
Okay.
In my dog pee can.
Uh-huh.
And origami.
Good. And stop. Also 4, right? So pretty evenly balanced. 4, 4, 4, right? Did you guys hear some of the things that you can do with these objects? What did they all have in common? Something to think about. They're all really practical. Right? You can clip paper with it, you can build a house with it, you can say, these are all like really rational, practical things that you can do with it. What age group, if I asked a certain age group the same question, I'd probably get 10 different things in 10 seconds. What age group would that be? What age group of kids? Like before they go to school. Right? As my daughter says, school destroys creativity. Why is that? Why does that happen? Why is, as we get older, creativity disappears? Because we become rational. We learn that there are certain rules that we have to apply to be able to make the world work. And one of the challenges, guys, today is that for businesses to be able to succeed, and especially in a sustainable way of growth, they have to start embracing things that sometimes seems irrational. We have to start stepping out of a comfort zone of how we used to do business, and we need to start looking at how can we do business in the future. And that is different. Digitization is an example of that, right? When we think of the rationality that we just dealt with, that we just saw here in the room, what we're really dealing with, guys, what is rationality? It's basically neural mapping. That is the neuroscience behind rationality. Basically what that means is that for every concept that we see as our reality, we create a neural map. And there's a rule in neuroscience called Hebb's rule. What fires together, wires together. And what that means is that there's a point in time in your life when you were so young that you, for example, didn't know what this was. Right? There's a little clicker, right? And you say, I have no idea what that little box is. It's a little black thing. But over time, as you, with exposure, repeated exposure, you see the same object, your brain, the neurons in your brain, they all fire together to create a map of what this object is and what it does. Makes sense, right? Repetition, repetition, repetition. No big deal about that. Here's the surprising thing, and this is recent research. After you've seen this object 1,000 times, what percentage of this object do you really need to see for reality to be able to see this object? What percentage would that be? Why 10%? Just a guess, or you read the research too? So yeah, I probably did. So yes, 10%. Why would the brain do that? Why would the brain say, if you only see 10% of this, oh, that's a clicker. I see a clicker. Why would it do that? It's to conserve energy. Right? The brain loves to conserve energy. And it wouldn't make sense for the brain to try and figure out and reconnect all these neurons and all of that kind of stuff every time it sees something. So it creates a picture. And when it sees 10% of something, it sees the whole picture as its reality. Now, if 10% of your reality is actuality. What is the other 90%? This is the game changer. What would that be? Let's use a nicer word. It's not an assumption, it's imagination. What that means, guys, is that your reality, the way you see your world, is 10% actuality, 90% imagination. Whatever challenges you're dealing with, whatever issues that you might want to have, whatever blocks that might be in your way of being able to be successful, it's 90% imagination, 10% actuality. That's something to think about, right? What that does is when we start believing that our 90% imagination is actual reality, it develops a mindset. And you guys all know Carol Dweck's work, right, about mindset. Yeah, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Right? Somebody who has a growth mindset, of course, is open to feedback, loves to learn, is not afraid of making mistakes, is not afraid of failure, loves all of those things. On the other hand, somebody who believes that their reality is actuality, their minds become more fixed. And they become more stuck in their thinking because they believe that what they see is reality. That is their truth. Right? That's known as a fixed mindset. Now, here's something interesting about fixed mindset versus growth mindset. That wellness is directly connected to your mindset. Think about it. If you're exhausted, stressed out, you're hungry, you're all of these kind of things, right? How capable is your brain of maintaining a growth mindset? How capable is your brain of being patient, of being empathetic, being all of those kind of things? Right? So wellness fuels your mindset. And without proper wellness, how can we have an expectation of ourselves that we can apply ourselves in the best way possible? Right? And so from a psychological model, if you look inside the brain, what the brain really does, it does three things simultaneously. The first, it thinks. I think, therefore I am. Right? Second, it feels. And the third, it acts. It does. And we do all three of those things simultaneously. But here's the interesting thing. Not all of us are equally good at doing all three at the same time. Some of us, for example, feel and do. We feel something and we react. Have you ever encountered that before in yourself? Yeah, when you've done something, you go, ooh, probably shouldn't have said that. Yeah? Or some of us also think and do. Have we encountered that before? Maybe in others. Yeah? Psychopaths do that really well, for example. Right? Thinking and doing. But our ability to be fully aligned and our ability to apply ourselves in the best way possible is to think, feel, and do simultaneously. To be fully connected with each and every one of those. And guess which one most executives struggle with? Anybody? Feeling. That's right. Feeling, that's a challenge. You know, even in today's modern world, how often do you get to have a conversation about how you feel? Ah, how you doing today? What's the default answer? Yeah? I always get that when I'm in the US, right? And they're like, hey, how's it going? It's like when you walk into a store and somebody's like, hey, how's it going? Say, and you start the conversation, not so well today. I say, I woke up this morning, had a little bit of a headache, stuff like that. The moment they glaze over, they're like, I'm out of here. Right? Nobody wants to hear it. Yeah? Still today, we have this difficulty of dealing with feelings, whether it's our own feelings or it's the feelings of others. But the truth is, guys, is when we can connect with how we feel, we can also connect better with how we think and how we act. Because everything we do is emotionally driven. Yeah? And an interesting field, and talking about medicine and the app, for example, interesting field is called psychoneuroimmunology. Psychoneuroimmunology is your ability to think yourself ill or think yourself better. Right? That's the power of the brain. The power of the brain has amazing capacity to heal the body, but also to make the body sick. Right? And when we're misaligned with how we feel, think, and do, that psychoneurological, immunological process makes us more ill, and that drives our wellness down. That's why stress and things like that can actually make a person physically ill. Yeah? All right. So think about this, guys, on an organizational level. Right? Think about Prudential. Right? I use in my coaching, I use a model, I call it the performance potential matrix. Right? But you can also use it at an individual level. So if we look at performance is easy to measure, right? It's kind of like your key performance indicators, all of this kind of stuff, kind of like the things that you can measure. But how do you measure potential? You know, if I asked every single one of you, how much potential do you have? What's the answer? I have 100? It doesn't sound right. We don't know how much potential we have. But what if I reframed that question and said, how about how much we are challenging our potential? How much do I, every single day when I wake up, how much do I challenge my potential? Yeah? And forgive my English, but I call it ass-kicking. Right? The amount of ass-kickingness that I do every single day. Do I wake up every day with a smile on my face, ready to kick some ass? Or do I just wake up in the morning and kind of chug along and be comfortable? Yeah? And there are many people who can perform in life, but who still don't necessarily challenge their potential. And these are people who very often feel unfulfilled in life because they're not challenging themselves in that way. On the other hand, there are people who challenge themselves a lot but still don't necessarily produce the results that they want, and then also feel unfulfilled. So our success in life or in business is dependent on our performance, also to what percentage we're challenging our potential. Right? Where would a company like Prudential need to be the world's top producer? Number one in this market. Where would it need to be on that matrix? Bottom left? Top right? Right? It's kind of a top right thing, right, in this matrix. If you same thing for you individually. As you as an individual want to be performing at your absolute best, you want to be putting yourself up in that top right corner. You want to be challenging that potential as much as possible, and you want to be performing in the way that you want to be performing. What's required for that? What does it take to be able to do that? And a really good question you can ask yourself is, to what extent are you living up to your potential today within Prudential or even as an organization? Right? And if you think about it, guys, from a behavior standpoint, what are some of those best practices? What are some of those behaviors, right? Especially for a client-focused organization like Prudential, right? Number one, you have to have a mutual agreement with your clients. Yeah, your clients have to want to work with you. Number two is the third is you have to establish trust. 4, you have to be fully engaged. Your client has to be fully engaged with you. 5, you have to offer impactful questioning. You always have to question the paradigm. Are we doing enough? Can we do better? Right? 6, have to have authentic language. Right? People connect to authentic language. And finally, you have to offer powerful insights. If you can do that as an organization, all 7 of those things, you are a rock star of an organization. Right? As an individual as well. When you can do all 7 of these things simultaneously in your work, you're a rock star. Would you agree? Yeah, right? Okay. In order for you to be able to do that, though, at a fundamental level, there are 4 core competencies that you're going to have to master. Whether it's an organization, or whether it's an individual, right? First one is being able to manage but also leverage off your stress. Yeah? Stress is the #1 killer for executives. Yeah? Something that can't be ignored, right? The second is to manage your mental focus. The exercise that we did outside, right, was all about mental focus. Avoiding distractions, all of those kind of things. Our ability to be able to stay and keeping that eye on the ball is critical for success. Our ability to manage change. I had a great conversation earlier with Priya about change in an organization and what's actually really required. And managing change is always a difficulty. The larger the organization, the more difficult it is. And the reason is because at a core level, we have to be able to master our ability to manage our change. Right? What's required for us to manage change, right? And the last one is our ability to be creative, our ability to think out of the box, challenge that paradigm of how we used to do business. And as you saw earlier in that exercise, that's not an easy thing to do for us adults who like to think rationally about things. This is partly about becoming irrational, about challenging that paradigm, doing things differently, right? And there's a requirement for that. And our ability to be able to do that depends on these 5 things. So, I'm going to finish off here. If wellness, right, is really about our capacity to be able to perform better and to be able to do better, what do we need to do to be well? What's required? Yeah? I like to think about energy, right? So think about energy in your brain. Ultimately, that is the big resource for the brain. The brain always looks at it. Did you know that when you say to yourself, I don't have time, that in reality your brain is saying, I don't have the energy? It's just translated as time. Yeah, but brain actually has no concept of time. But it does have a concept of energy, right? So a couple of things that you want to do, think about, basically 2. It's like a bank account. You want to be energy rich. You want to do things that increase that energy, and you want to prevent things that make you energy poor. What makes you energy wealthy? Make sure you get enough sleep. Eat right. Move plenty, right? And meditate daily. Yeah? Mindfulness meditation, things like that are really, really important. Yeah? Finally, what drains energy from the brain? Negative thinking, poor time management, negative stress, because there is such a thing as positive stress, right? And of course, managing our distractions. Distractions destroy the energy in the brain. Following those steps will help you manage your energy and manage your wellness. And what could be cool, and I'm thinking ahead with regards to Prudential's app, but having an app in the future that helps people manage this really, really well could be super significant for people. Yeah, something for long-term thinking. Yeah. All right, and that's pretty much all that I have to offer for today. Any insights?
Huh?